it's time for wisdom, dear one. It's time for you to find that spark within yourself, within your heart that knows the truth. Now, we'll talk a little bit more a little later about how to touch that dynamic, but you all know you've already touched it, each and every one of you. And it's a matter of you being willing to stand upon it, to stand upon your strength, to stand upon your truth, to stand upon what you know. And we're not talking about starting a war with others. We're not talking about any of that dynamic. What we are talking about is allowing your resonance to shift and change, to be able to come into sympathetic resonance, a similar vibration. It won't necessarily be exactly the same, but a resonantial vibration that basically has the desire for peace behind it. Because and we do not misinterpret the word peace. Do not think it is a trite dynamic. Believe that there is a certain level of complexity, a certain level of understanding that we would suggest that each of you already has, that the new world needs to begin to grasp as well. We have spoken any number of times about the big five, and we don't want to get into this dynamic where we're talking about something every week, but we're talking about how can we get from here to there without destroying the world. And we would suggest to you that the simple desire, just simple, not to overblow it, but this small group, as well as any number of groups that are desiring in their hearts for peace with enough for all, are combining this resonance of energy, and more this dynamic is being reflected. Okay, it's not being reflected in a peaceful sort of way, but it's being reflected in a confrontive sort of way. In other words, your world is very much divided between dark shadow and light shadow, and we will allow you all to make your own decisions as far as what is what. But your whole world is divided between that dynamic of light shadow and dark shadow, and yet one cannot exist without the other. And so as you begin to understand that more and more, you begin to accept the dynamics of the light, or accept the dynamics of the dark. And you utilize your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience of going through your own timeline to be able to confront and deal with these dynamics of energy with elegance, with grace. Because that's what this is about, dear ones. This is about you all being able to go through your lives with elegance and with grace and with compassion, primarily compassion for yourselves. Because once you have that compassion for yourselves, you will begin to develop it more and more for others. But you won't become the enabler. See, that's the point. So many in the dynamics of being either in the dark or the light, if you're going toward the light, you wind up being the enabler. You wish to be the helper. You wish to, and yet, you go into a situation where you feel you have to confront the dynamic of energy that you're facing rather than understand the dynamic that energy, that signature of that energy, and therefore disarm it from its source. So rather than dealing with the manifestation, you're dealing with the emotional source of the dynamic. And that's what you are all accomplishing in your own way. You do it through, okay, so we talk sense to you a couple of times a week, and, you take that and you do with it what you wish. But it's a dynamic that, as you have put yourselves in line with this path, your reality is reflecting to you what you need and what is important for you all. All right, so Adrian, go ahead. We hear you smacking your lips.
Well, you said if we're coming from the light, then we would tend to go to the helper, and how to instead of confronting, to go underneath and understand why
And
emotionally.
going from the dark, what do you wind up doing?
Well, that's what I was going to ask
Come on,
about.
what do you wind up doing? You know the dark well enough.
Well, you
What's the first thing you do?
judge.
That's the word. See, we trained her well. Well, because it's true. That's the word. The first thing you do is judge. All right? Which, remember the difference between assessment and judgment. Assessment is a fluid dynamic. Assessment allows for more information. Assessment allows for change and you being able to change your opinion as you learn more within a dynamic. Judgment freezes things right in place and doesn't allow for any dynamic of movement. Because you have to be judged in order to be sentenced and punished.
Right. And I can see, I don't know if it serves or not, but I can see how that's playing out right now politically.
Well, that's but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about reflections of the consensus reality that is coming into your lives. That is showing you reflections that are valuable for you all.
So one side, in a way, is confronting, and it's almost a righteous way, and the other side is judging.
But neither one of them works, does it?
Neither one works.
That's where you need that holistic dynamic. That's where you need that dynamic. We'll get to that. That's where you need that dynamic of both energies. Because the light shadow and the dark shadow will counteract each other in such ways that it loses the dynamics of that opposing energy, and instead you are combining light shadow and dark shadow through wisdom and experience, which allows you to really get a whole vision of the dynamic. That's what we talk about with the energy of rising above, and to being able to see things from a position that's that sacred I am. Right. So very primarily, go ahead, Natalie, you have something? You have a mouthful is what you have.
I was just going to say thank you, because you've talked to us about the concepts of judgment versus assessment before, but for some reason just now it clicked when you or clicked more when you said that assessment is a fluid concept, and I hadn't thought about that before, because it's much more objective. That's another word you've worked with us on. It's so much more objective, whereas judgment is so concrete and it's so rigid. That rigid is the word, because we want to be right about something. And like 20 years ago you said to me, would you rather be right or would you rather be free? And that was like really, really profound.
We love being profound for you, dear one.
So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.